Good morning, everyone. Glad that you're here. And I want to say before I get started, along the way as I share, if you have any questions at the end, if you will just text them to us, and then I will answer them at the end. So last week was National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. And what we were aware of last week was I was doing an intensive and working 12-hour days because the week before we had a snowstorm. 2020 had the pandemic. 2021 in West Texas, we had a blizzard. And so that, in fact, we had to move the intensive. So we're a little behind, but that's all right. We're never too early or too late. We're always right on time. Any of us, whatever we do, we're always right on time. So I want to talk a little bit about National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. This is a nonprofit organization that does education on eating disorders, and I don't know if they do referrals, perhaps they do, but they have, I went into the business like 34 years ago, and that was before this was established, but they have done some really good work, and once a year I have this awareness week. So that's why I wanted to share this with you this time, and I'll be doing this every morning at 10 o'clock this week. Friday it will be taped, because I will be on my way to St. Louis to see my grandson play football. But anyway, if you can tune in every morning at 10, I'll share a little bit about eating disorders, which it is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I would like to say I've had no personal experience with it, that I'm just a worker in the field. But I can't say that because I almost died from an eating disorder. And my eating disorder was started, I believe, at age 4 when I started binge eating, overeating. I found candy. There was something traumatic that happened in my life, and I started eating sugar, and I never got enough until I got in recovery. I ate myself up to 287 pounds. I could lose the weight, but I could not keep it off. So what happened is in 1972, I found the eating disorder called bulimia. And I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know it had a name. It's and how I had lost like 150 pounds, and my biggest fear, I would do this and I'd gain it right back. So this last time I thought, I cannot gain it back. And so I started using laxatives. I would use up to 100 or 125 toward the end of the time that those years that I was bulimic. And the reason that I use that many, and that's not that unusual, is in a severe bulimic, is because like any medication, after a while it quit working and I had to take more and more and more. So in 1985, September the 19th, 1985, I was intervened on by an employee that knew about bulimia because his wife was recovering from bulimia and anorexia. Long story short, the next week I was sitting in Hollywood, California. That just sounds so intriguing and so exciting, but it was the old part of it was West Hollywood, and it had I was in a dingy little psychiatric center where Dr. Judy Hollis had reserved some beds to treat eating disorder clients, and I went there, and I had not been off of sugar or laxatives, hadn't been off of sugar all of my life, really, maybe a day or two, but never, even when I'd go on those strict diets, I would always manage to eat a little bit of sugar, so therefore I was never off of it, never completely clean. But I got clean in treatment. I got clean of all the sugar that I was eating, and realized I was a sugar addict. Not everyone has that sugar addiction. And there are people in the eating disorder field that denies that there is such a thing. And, you know, what I want to say, bless their hearts, maybe they haven't had it, I don't know. But research will show that there is can be a true addiction to sugar. And I had a true addiction to sugar. And so I got clean of the sugar I was a volume eater. It took a lot of food for me to push down the pain of living. And then, so I was a compulsive overeater and a bulimic. You know, they call it today binge eating. It finally found its way into the DSM diagnostic book that we have. It's a catalog of all mental health diseases, disorders. Anorexia is there, bulimia is there, and there's never been anything about compulsive overeating. They did finally have added binge eating. So that's where compulsive overeating falls under. And I ate myself up to 287 pounds. And through a lot of hard work and a lot of support from people, I have surrendered 160 pounds over the last, it'll be 36 years, September the 19th. And what happens in recovery is food takes its proper place. The eating disorder, when you treat the core symptoms of the eating disorder and you do what is directed for you to do, you will recover. You know, we don't believe in diets. Diets don't work. If diets had worked, I would have, I went on diets and I lost lots of weight over and over and over and over and gained it back over and over and over and over. So we don't subscribe to diets. We encourage people to find a healthy way to live. We call it a healthy food plan. And there's over 240 wonderful foods available. We don't have to restrict it to just a few simple foods that we don't have to have a fear of food. Food is not the enemy. There's no bad or good foods. Now, there are some foods that are healthier than others, and for me, with being a sugar addict, what all that tells me is that one's too many and 1,000's not enough. Once I start that, and by the way, the craving is not set up until the substance is put into the body, and then once we eat a cookie, we might want 2 or 3 or the box, or, so it's food addiction is real. It is real for some people. And so one of the things that they're stressing, and the theme for this week, like I said, we're behind, but we still want to honor the National Eating Disorder Awareness Week for the work that they have done in educating people. And so that's why we want to spend this week talking about eating disorders. I have been on all sides of an eating disorder. I have been I have had an eating disorder. I've been on that side. I have been the patient. I have been the therapist, treating people with eating disorders. And then I have a daughter that almost died of anorexia. And by the grace of God and a lot of work on her part and help from other people, she's in total recovery, remission from anorexia. And when she was diagnosed, she was the height she is now, 5'10", and weighed 97 pounds. And her weight was very compromised. And we didn't know what anorexia was. We did not know. And I thank God every day that her therapist here sent her to the treatment center where I was in California to be diagnosed. She didn't know to diagnose her as anorexia. And so I've been on all sides of this disease. And, I want to say, by the grace of God, I'm in recovery today. My daughter's in recovery. And I've watched thousands of people recover from an eating disorder. So I just want to give you the theme. The theme that they've had is everybody has a seat at the table. I like that. Everybody has a seat at the table. And what they also said to explain the theme is come as you are. A lot of times people deny or don't even know for sure if they have an eating disorder, because, you know, magazines, you can't always believe everything you read. And so eating disorders have all seem to have a specific look. Like if anorexia is like if, you know, your weight must be very compromised before you can be diagnosed with anorexia. And that is so untrue. That is so untrue. If the earlier that we can catch any disorder, eating disorder, the better recovery will be. And so when people start restricting their food for any reason, usually the family knows it first. They'll watch. And before that weight gets very compromised in today's time, you can do an intervention. You can intervene and invite that person to get some help for an eating disorder. You don't have to wait till they're down to 70 pounds or lower. You know, we've treated them in their, you know, the lowest one I think was 48 pounds. By the way, she's in good recovery. So it doesn't have to be a certain look. And for instance, you know, we used to, because of magazines and articles and all, they used to describe an anorexic as pretty frail, pretty fragile, mostly coming out of you know, where they're ballerinas or gymnasts or, you know, just some type of sports. And so therefore there's been young women, young girls that are, you know, in athletics, that they would get on a, you know, they would think that they were overweight and they would start dieting and losing weight, and no one would really pay that much attention to it because these girls had muscles, they were good athletes, and so the look, you can't always tell. The look is not always the same. The look is not always the same. A person can be within a normal weight range and still have a severe eating disorder. One of the ways that they can do that is through bulimia. Now, after a while, the bulimia will catch up, but for bulimia, it is taking in massive calories, and that in a short period of time, and then finding a way to get rid of it through that porcelain throne, through purging it up, through excessive exercise, or through laxatives and diuretics. And for a long time, that weight can be maintained. But after a while, even bulimics will start gaining weight. But a lot of times, people can practice bulimia and it may not be recognized. One of the ways you can recognize bulimia is people, and not only women, men also, have eating disorders, but you can watch their jaw lines. These glands will swell. Their teeth will begin to corrode. They'll have bad teeth, and a lot of times no one ever confronts them or intervenes on them until they, usually something happens and they fade or they get really ill, and then they come clean and get honest about what they're doing with food. And all of these, the different forms of eating disorders, and there's a lot of different forms. You know, some treatment centers do not consider morbid obesity an eating disorder. Absolutely, it's an eating disorder. It is binge eating done over and over and over and over for years, and it leads to morbid obesity. Morbid obesity is one of the highest killers of people in the United States. The United States has one of the highest rates of obesity of any country. We have the most food, and it's everywhere, except during the pandemic. And I think the pandemic has really created more eating disorders, or has increased eating the symptoms of eating disorders. And so I don't care what the eating disorder is, whether it's undereating turns to anorexia, the overeating, the binge eating turns to morbid obesity, or bulimia, which is binge eating and then purging. And then there's other eating disorders that's identifiable. One of them is chewing and spitting. Now you'll see this around a lot of your models, your actresses, and kids at school. It's not limited to famous people, where they just want the taste of the good food, and so they will chew, and very discreetly spit it out in a napkin. And they keep doing that, and after a while they start swallowing more than they think, and it can produce in some weight gain, but that is a very diagnosable eating disorder, chewing and spitting. And then orthorexia is very prevalent. And we see that a lot with young men, and not just young men. We see it, and what that is being just almost addicted or obsessed with eating nothing but healthy food. And when they do that, it will result a lot of times in weight loss, muscle loss, and the denial is very, very high because when you get an orthorexia, they'll argue with you till hell freezes over. Well, I am eating, and I'm eating nothing but healthy food. And yes, they will, and then their weight will become compromised because a lot of times they will restrict some of the main foods that carry the main nutrients that sustains the body. So that's a few of the different types of eating disorders, and they are all worthy of treatment. They can all have a place at the table for treatment for an eating disorder. And then people deserve ongoing treatment. A lot of times, particularly family members, this is why we do a very thorough family week to educate the family, and really to let the family know that they didn't cause it, they can't cure it, they can't control it, and in some ways they can contribute to it. But we do a good family week to educate the family that this can be an ongoing disease that can crop back up. And so people need to be given the permission that they deserve ongoing treatment. And it may take a while. People come to treatment, and for us it's 42 days, and sometimes we recommend that they stay for transition. And what transition is simply they transition from inpatient treatment to they still go to groups, they still are very involved with the therapist and with their group, but then they began to cook their own meals and shop and buy their own groceries, and that's a hard part for eating disorder clients. And a lot of them after 42 days just want to go home, but the ones who stay have said, oh, I'm so glad I did. I was not ready to go home, because once you get into touching the food, buying the food, preparing the food, it's hard. It's really hard. But I always say with addictions, I've been in the addiction field for over 40 years, and still treat all addictions with a primary focus on eating disorders. And we do differ from some treatment centers. We treat eating disorders as an addiction, because I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt it has an addiction component. That mental obsession is set up, and and what happens is eating disorders respond so well with addiction treatment, and also a lot of behavior modification. But one of the things is if people do not get some really good recovery and get on the path, the relapse rate in eating disorders is very high, and really that's what I'm going to talk about Thursday, is understanding relapse and how relapse gets started. And so there is a high rate of relapse with eating disorder clients, and we need to give ourselves permission to continue to treat the eating disorder. And you know, the eating disorder is absolutely a freestanding problem of its own. And I do believe it's driven by core issues. And so that's why at Shades, we do a lot of work around the early childhood. It's in no way to go back and blame parents or to make anybody bad or wrong. It's for the person themselves with the eating disorder to look at their history and get their story straight. Their eating disorder a lot of times will start in childhood, or at least the thoughts. You know, like I said, mine started at age 4. I've had witnessed a severe trauma in my family, and somehow at age 4, almost 5, I blamed it on myself. And I started eating candy to fill up that hole in my soul. And it took a lot of food to ease the pain of living until I found treatment almost 36 years ago. So we really believe in looking at the family system, not to blame. It's no one's fault. This is a no blame. But a lot of times the eating disorder person will be the IP, the identified patient in the family. And so our job is to help the family heal together. Like I said, the family absolutely did not cause the illness, nor did can they cure it or control it, but they can contribute to it. And so we believe, I keep saying this, in treating the whole family. You know, I think back about the singers. I can't think of their names right now. The brother and sister.
Carpenter.
The Carpenters. The brother and sister Carpenter. Karen Carpenter and her brother, famous. They were very famous. And, you know, the brother really wanted to be a musician, and he loved the limelight. His sister didn't. And her mother pushed her. It was like her mother's handprint was on her back, pushing her for success. And Karen Carpenter did not want that. And she couldn't stand up and say no to her mother. Now, am I blaming her mother? Absolutely not. I think every parent wants the best for their children, and none of us wake up some morning and say, well, today's the day we go up, you know, we wake up and go screw up our kids' lives. Parents don't intend to do any damage to their children, but we do. We do. I know my daughter Kim, and I have her permission to talk about it, is that my eating disorder in a lot of ways is how she started hers, because I was very obese, and she made up in her head that her mother needed the food more than she did, because she would watch me get upset. And then her story is that she would see me upset, but then she would also see me eat lots of food, particularly the leftovers, not really at mealtime, but the leftovers. And Kim started watching me, and she made up in her little child's head that her mother needed the food more than she did, and her anorexia started very early, very early. And, you know, I feel sad about that. But I also feel very glad that she's found recovery, and she's lives within a normal weight range. She takes care of herself. And so did I in any way want to cause or create my daughter to have an eating disorder? Absolutely not. I didn't. And I did. I had a lot of influence on that. And I think probably some part of her mind that she doesn't want to say out loud is I don't think she ever wanted to be overweight. I think that fear of being overweight, many of your anorexic girls will have overweight mothers, or they will have mothers that are normal weight or might be anorexic themselves, or they will be diet focused, exercise focused, body focused. They'll have fathers that are focused on their mother's bodies. They want their wives' bodies to look a certain way. And I'll tell you what, if you're a parent, your kid's watching you. They're watching you what you do with food. They're watching what you do with lookism, how you feel about your body. And if you're not healthy yourself about your body and food, you can't teach that to your children. We don't really set our children down and teach them verbally. We teach them by example. If they see you either overeating or undereating or complaining about your weight or going on strict diets and having special food, I would go on these 500 calorie diets and I'd lose 100 pounds on it. And I would have special food. Well, my little kids wanted that little bitty dab of whatever special food I was eating. And that told my children that you had to restrict your food in order to lose weight. And I've come to believe and know that is so untrue. That is so untrue. And I have made amends to my children verbally, and another amends that I make to them is I'm a healthy eater today. I am a healthy eater, and I am in good recovery from binge eating and from bulimia, and I'm grateful for every day of that, and it's been going on for about 36 years. So if you have any questions, I want to emphasize that about you deserve ongoing treatment. It's not a lot of times just one and done. You can go through treatment. A lot of times the family thinks you're fixed. And so please, if you're having problems with an eating disorder, that after you've gone to treatment, reach out to the treatment center where you went, or reach out to us, or come do a 4-day intensive. We do a 4-day intensive for people that are either in relapse or thinking they might get in relapse, or that just have some childhood issues that they want to work on. So I'm going to close with seeing if there's any questions that you would like me to ask, and also to know that if you want a free estimate, we do free estimates at Shades, and all you do is call Shades, and we'll give you the number at the end, and ask for Cam, C-A-M, or Cindy, and we give free assessments. And, some people may not have a full-blown eating disorder, but sometimes people have disordered eating, and that's the time to catch it. And I'll tell you, eating disorders, like any addiction, is between our two ears. It's in our thinking, and that's what has to be treated. It's not just what's in the plate, it's what's in our head that has to change. So my friend Misty is going to tell me the question, and if I can, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Let's see.
Let me get a drink of water. Okay.
Hold on. I don't see any questions, but Shelley said she loved Karen Carpenter. She said she looked a lot like her and was singing with the adult choir at church when she was 13. This was in 1978 when she was anorexic. I didn't find out what Karen Carpenter died from until I saw the movie in 1989, but for the grace of God. Oh, here's a question, but go ahead.
Okay, so my friend Shelley wrote this. I don't know if that's on your screen. I can't.
Yeah, everybody can see it. Yeah.
So Karen Carpenter actually died within a normal weight range, and what informs of bulimia. One of the things with anorexia that we can really get in trouble with is to the refeeding process. The refeeding process of an anorexic has to be very slow because their whole digestive system can't handle the quick refeeding and the quick weight gain. It needs to be slow, very deliberate, and that's why it takes longer for majority of your anorexics and people with anorexia to recover. And Karen Carpenter, like I said, died within a normal weight range. I saw the movie, and I think her organs began to shut down. I think she was practicing bulimia. And that's the thing about anorexia, that you have to be very careful in treating them, because I used to think an anorexic didn't get hungry. Guess what they do? And that's what they get out of anorexia, the power of not eating. And it's that control of not having to do what normal people do. And so their fear is once they start eating that they can't stop. And some will go over to the binge cycle and start binging. We've seen that happen many times. And then the fear of gaining the weight will come up, and then they will start the purging. So they've moved from anorexia into bulimia, into the binge purge. And then we've seen some that have gone all the way over and have gained weight, and we've had them come back and then treat the overeating side. So an addiction is an eating disorder is an eating disorder is an eating disorder, and we must treat that core pain before there is any really true recovery. So
Sue Melton says, do you treat people that have had weight loss surgery?
Okay, the question is, do we treat people who have weight loss surgery? Absolutely, we do, because the weight loss surgery is for one reason, and that is to lose weight. And we see eating disorders much more than that. We see it as that mental obsession, that obsession for food, and then, that it is a physical part. So yes, we get many clients that have eaten through. If you don't really treat those core symptoms of what's driving you to eat, people will go back to the food. You know, I had the old-timey intestinal bypass surgery in 1972. It was so dangerous they don't even do it anymore. Because the doctor that did mine, he only did it on 10 of us, and only 2 of us lived. And by the grace of God, I did. And so I lost a lot of weight. I had the first part of 72, and by the end of 72 is when I had started gaining it back. Our bodies want to work for us, and even after that surgery, I started gaining weight because I couldn't stop the overeating. And so I certainly didn't gain all of it back, but you know, I'd got down to about the size I am now, and I gained back about 60, 70 pounds. So to say that, the answer is yes. We treat them all the time. And some people come within, you know, they've lost their weight, but they still want to eat. And a lot of people who have had, I won't say a lot, but some who have had the surgery will also do the chewing and spitting. So yes, we do treat people who have the bypass surgery, the intestinal surgery. One of the things I encourage people to do, if you're going to have any kind of weight loss surgery, it's but a tool. And what I encourage people to do is come here and go through treatment first. Go through treatment. It's a tool, and then have the surgery. And then you're going to know how to treat the eating disorder. Otherwise, you're going to still either attempt to overeat, or you will overeat, and you'll be right back in the same place. But the treating the eating disorder involves looking at those core feelings and the core symptoms that's driving the eating in the first place. I hope that answered your question.
Through an intensive.
Yes, one of the things that would help is come to our 4-day intensive, because that will, we do body image. It's 12-hour days, and people get a lot out. We just finished one. If you've had that bypass surgery or the weight loss surgery, that'd be a wonderful place to start, is to do a 4-day intensive with us. We have one coming up in March. We have one every month.
So Sue, this same lady, is saying, I don't want to eat, but I need to work through the mental part of it. I know it's just a tool. I want to use my tool, and she says, and I know I'm oversharing in the live. And Tennie may not remember, but she has known me since I was
Oh,
a
the
kid.
Sue Tarrant. I thought that's
Sue Tarrant Melton.
I've known you for all your life. Absolutely, I've known you all your life. So, Sue, you had, yes,
She
and
says she doesn't want to eat, but needs to work through the mental part of it.
okay, what I would say, come and do the 4-day intensive. You came by your overweight natural. I mean, your mom and dad were overweight, and it's good to hear from you, Sue. I wished you would come and do an intensive with us, because that's what we treat, is that mental and emotional side. So think about it. Call the center and maybe get some information. Good to hear from you, Sue. Now, did I see...
Heather Barant, 8 years, recovered on the 13th of March. She's hitting her 8-year anniversary recovery birthday.
Good for you. 8 years. Go, Heather. See, recovery is so possible. One day at a time. One day at a time. Go, Heather.
Okay, and then, hold on. Sue is saying, I had VSG in December of 2019, lost 65 pounds, had surgery, don't want to be my parents. I will do that, and thank you.
Oh, I hope we see you. And besides all that, you'll get to see me and you'll get to see Kim, and we'll have a lot of fun. And we work hard, and we will get to those core symptoms. It's what's driving your eating disorder. And another thing, so if, you know, that switch in our brain, it can switch to anorexia. Not, you know, so hope you'll call the center and get some help. Like I said, we're having an intensive in March, finished one last week. Do you know the date of that?
Yes, I do. It's March the 15th through the 19th.
So it's March 15th through the 19th. So hope you'll call. And besides all that, I'd love to see you. I remember those band days. band days, not band-aids, band-aid days. I'm getting
like
the tongue
instruments.
twisted. Yeah, playing.
Music.
Yes, music. Loved your folks. Went to church with y'all for years. Good to hear from you, Sue.
And Heather, that has her 8-year anniversary coming up, says, hi, I missed you.
Well, I miss you too. Come to see us. Come to see us. We hope to, you know, we used to have a reunion every year, but now our years are so different. We don't know when we'll have a reunion, but I will promise you, as soon as all
COVID
of the
lifts.
pandemic, COVID is over, we're going to have one great
Yes.
big celebration in the form of a Shades reunion. So stay tuned. We will let you know.
I think that's it for now.
All righty.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's good to see all of you on here, and we'll be doing this every every morning this week, in honor of the people who formed the National Eating Disorder Week. This is a very helpful organization, and you know, years ago, and I want to honor this lady. I was thinking about her this morning. Her name was Shirley Klein, and she had lost and was maintaining, I think, about a 250-pound weight loss, and she started an organization called the International Eating Disorder Association, and this was before the National Eating Disorder. This was years ago. This was in the 80s, and so Shirley Klein, I don't know if she's still living, but I'll tell you, she did a lot for the eating disorder field. She was actually not a professional herself. She was not a therapist, but she was in recovery, and she had the love of helping other people with eating disorders. And so she was the front runner of a lot of national and international information given about eating disorders. So I just wanted to do a little remembrance of Shirley Klein and what she brought to the field. And now this organization, National Eating Disorder Week, with their it was last week that they celebrated, and that's all right. We're a little behind, but like I said when we started, we're never too early or never too late. We're always right on time. So I'll be back here tomorrow at 10. If you know anyone that might be interested or might need some information, ask them to join us. And our number here is if you need an assessment or any other information, it's Shades of Hope, all lowercase. This is email shadesofhope.com. Our number is 325-572-3843. Give us a call. Have a great day.
And share this on your Facebook page.
Share this on your Facebook page. If we could intervene with one person, it would be worth it. And besides that, I got to reconnect with Sue, so it's been worthy. And there's
Diane said,
there's
"Yay!"
Diane. Yeah, so great. All righty. See you tomorrow. Thank you.